From roasting the Smiths
Oh, wow!
to calling out Kevin Hart for being in literally every movie,
Playing a bush. I was like, is that Kev? Get out of here!
here are 11 times Chris Rock absolutely destroyed celebrities. And to kick things off, let's start with Jada Pinkett Smith's Oscars boycott. The 2016 Oscars were surrounded by controversy as the Academy faced major backlash for a lack of diversity, leading to the viral hashtag #OscarsSoWhite. Many actors and filmmakers, including Jada Pinkett Smith, announced they were boycotting the ceremony in protest. And that's when Chris Rock stepped in.
What happened this year? What happened? People went mad. You know, Spike got mad, and Sharpton got mad, and Jada went mad, and Will went mad. Everybody went mad. You know, it's quite like Jada got mad. Jada says she's not coming, protesting. I'm like, is she on a TV show?
Jada wanted nothing to do with the Oscars that year, but according to Chris, the Oscars didn't exactly miss her either.
Jada's gonna boycott the Oscars. Jada boycotting the Oscars is like me boycotting Rihanna's panties. I wasn't invited.
The punchline probably hit a sore spot, and just when you think he's done, he flips the whole situation on its head and drags Will into it.
I'm not hating. I understand you're mad. Jada's mad. Her man, Will, was not nominated for concussion. I get it. Tell the truth. I get it.
He really played the understanding card here, but watch what happens next.
You get mad, said it's not fair that Will was this good and didn't get nominated. Yeah, you're right. It's also not fair that Will was paid $20 million for Wild Wild West.
Now, was it unfair that Will didn't get nominated for concussion? Sure, but was it more unfair that Hollywood handed him $20 million for Wild Wild West? Absolutely. But here's where it gets even better, because Chris wasn't just dragging other people, he threw Kevin Hart into the fire too.
This year the Oscars, things are gonna be a little different. Things are gonna be a little different at the Oscars. This year, in the in memoriam package, it's just gonna be black people that were shot by the cops on their way to the movies.
Boycott the Oscars? Oh, Chris thought about it. But the only problem? He wasn't about to lose another job to Kevin Hart. And honestly, fair point. At the rate Kevin Hart was booking gigs in 2016, he probably would have been hosting 3 award shows that night. Chris Rock came out swinging, and this wasn't the only instance. The 2022 Oscars were not any better for the Smiths. The 2022 Oscars were rolling along as expected. Red carpets, celebrities, and a whole lot of self-congratulations. But then came Chris Rock. He took the stage doing what he does best, roasting Hollywood royalty.
Now, if she loses, he can't win. He is praying that Will Smith wins, like, please.
It started with a joke on Javier Bardem and his wife, but then he turned his attention to Jada Pinkett Smith.
Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it, all right? That was a nice one, okay.
Boy, she did not look happy. The joke? A quick jab about Jada's shaved head, referencing G.I. Jane. But here's where things get complicated. Jada wasn't rocking that look by choice. She had openly spoken about her struggle with alopecia, a condition that causes hair loss. At first, Will Smith was laughing, but then he saw Jada's face too. And in an instant, everything changed.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Will stormed the stage and slapped Chris Rock across the face. The audience froze. Was this real? Was it a bit? Nobody knew what was happening, but once Will got back to his seat, oh, it was real.
Yes. It was a G.I. Jane joke.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
I'm going to, okay?
Chris barely had a second to process what had happened before Will was shouting across the room. And just like that, the entire vibe of the Oscars shifted from glamorous to straight up chaotic. Chris stayed professional, no retaliation, no meltdown, just pure shock. And then, without missing a beat, he kept the show moving. But if you thought he'd stay mum his whole life, boy, were you wrong. He dropped a Netflix special and unloaded everything. Chris started off by acknowledging the elephant in the room, because let's be real, everybody knew what happened.
Everybody knows, yes, it happened. I got smacked like a year ago. Fucking last week, I got smacked at the fucking Oscars by this. And people like, did it hurt? It still hurts.
There it was. Raw, unfiltered honesty. He didn't pretend it didn't hurt. He didn't brush it off. He owned it. But this wasn't just about a slap. According to Chris, this was about selective outrage. But watch how he very subtly throws shade at Jada with what he says next.
Smith practices selective outrage. Practices selective outrage. Because everybody knows what the happened. Everybody that really knows I had nothing to do with it.
This wasn't really about a G.I. Jane joke. This was about years of humiliation.
And then for people that don't know, what everybody knows, Wilson and his wife was her son's friend, okay? Now, I normally would not talk about this.
And so, he aired their dirty laundry in front of the whole world. Chris wasn't the one who embarrassed Will Smith. Jada did that all on her own.
But for some reason, these put that shit on the internet. I have no idea why two talented people would do something that low down. What the we all been cheated on. Everybody in here been cheated on. None of us have ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television.
She wasn't just cheating. She aired it out. Publicly, and not just publicly, on a full-blown interview where she sat across from Will and basically said, "Yeah, I had a thing with our son's friend. How do you feel about that?"
Like, hey, I was sucking somebody else's. How did that make you feel?
And the entire world watched Will's soul leave his body.
Why the would you do that shit? She hurt him way more than he hurt me, okay?
Once that entanglement went viral, it was open season on Will Smith. Every rapper, every podcast, every talk show, everyone was clowning him. And instead of checking them, Will decided to take all that built-up frustration and smack the one guy he knew wouldn't hit back. That, Chris wasn't about to let slide.
Everybody called him a shit, called his wife a predator. Everybody called him a
I mean, okay, Chris, we get it. The entire world was calling Will weak, and instead of hitting back at the people who actually humiliated him,
and who's he hit? Me. A nigga he know he could beat. That is some.
he picked Chris Rock. Chris, not impressed. And here's where it all comes full circle. Because this wasn't the first time Jada came for Chris.
I do nothing to this, okay? His whatever. Years ago, his wife said I should quit the Oscars. I shouldn't host because her man didn't get nominated for Emancipation. The biggest piece of ever. Okay? And then something gives me a concussion. She said he should quit because Will didn't get nominated for concussion. What the What the So then I do some jokes about her. Who gives a That's how it is. She starts it, I finish it, okay? That's what the happened. Nobody's picking on this. She started this.
Chris Rock waited an entire year to say anything about the slap, but when he finally spoke, he made sure it hit harder than Will ever could. Chris didn't just stop at obliterating Will and Jada, he had more to say. And that's the magic of Chris Rock. Whether he's calling out Hollywood, roasting billionaires, or throwing shade at entitled celebrities, he does it all with sharp wit and fearless honesty. Love him or hate him, one thing's for sure. When Chris Rock has a mic, no one is safe.